Welcome back to Scintilla. I'm so glad that you've joined back in this timeless journey of the Mahabharata. If you're watching this series for the first time, I highly recommend that you go back and watch the first 5 episodes of the series and then come back to episode 6. Every episode builds upon one another, making the story richer and easier to understand. Before we begin, let's take a quick journey from where we left off. In our last episode, the throne of Hastinapura finally found its king. Prince Pandu was crowned as a ruler of the Kuru dynasty. Although Dhritarashtra was the eldest prince, the elders chose Pandu because a king in those days had to personally lead his army and protect his kingdom in battle. Dhritarashtra accepted the decision with dignity, teaching us that true strength lies not only in victory but also in acceptance. We also witnessed the marriage of Dhritarashtra and Princess Gandhari. And then something remarkable happened. Out of love and devotion for her husband, Gandhari chose to cover her own eyes with a soft cloth, deciding to share his darkness for the rest of her life. The kingdom finally seemed peaceful. Everyone believed better days had arrived. But destiny had already begun writing its next chapter. Now let us continue with our today's episode. With King Pandu on the throne, Hastinapura entered a golden age. The kingdom prospered, trade flourished, people lived happily, justice was fair, the borders were secure everywhere. People praise their young king. King Pandu truly cares for his people. But there was one important duty that still remained. The young king had to marry. Now let me introduce you to one of the most extraordinary women in the Mahabharata, Princess Kunti. She wasn't admired merely because she was beautiful. People respected her because of her gentle nature, her wisdom, her compassion, and above all, her willingness to serve others. There was something very special about Kunti. Years earlier, she had served the great sage Durvasa with complete devotion. The sage was deeply pleased. Before leaving, he blessed her with a mysterious gift, a divine mantra, a secret that would one day change the destiny of the entire Mahabharata. But that story would have to wait. For now, King Pandu and Princess Kunti were married in a grand royal ceremony. The palace echoed with music and the streets bloomed with flowers. The people rejoiced. Once again, Hastinapura celebrated. As was common among kings in those days, political alliances often strengthened kingdoms. And so, King Pandu entered into another royal marriage, this time with Princess Madri, the graceful princess of the kingdom of Madra. Madri was admired for her beauty, her elegance, and her courage. Soon, both queens became beloved members of the royal family. Life couldn't have been happier, or so everyone believed. King Pandu ruled with wisdom. Whenever difficult decisions arose, he sought the guidance of Bhishma. Whenever justice had to be served, he listened to Vidura. He never allowed pride to cloud his judgment. He traveled across kingdoms. He met farmers, merchants, soldiers, children. He wanted to understand his people, not simply rule over them. Then one day, everything changed. King Pandu rode into the forest for a royal hunt. The forest was breathtaking. Tall trees swayed gently. Birds filled the air with music. Streams flowed quietly between the rocks. Nature seemed completely at peace. Suddenly, Pandu noticed two beautiful deer grazing nearby. He quietly picked up his bow, pulled back the string, took carefully aim, and released the arrow. The arrow flew swiftly through the air, finding its mark. But what happened next left Pandu frozen in shock. The two deer began transforming before his eyes. They were no ordinary animals. They were sage Kindama and his wife, who had assumed the beautiful form of deer to enjoy a peaceful moment together in the forest. The wounded sage looked at Pandu with deep sorrow. With his final breaths, the sage spoke. "O king, you are a great ruler, but today you acted without understanding what you saw. You have taken my life at the most sacred moment when I was with my wife." The sage closed his eyes for a moment. Then he uttered words that would change history forever. "As you have caused us to be separated in this way, the moment you approach your wife with love, death shall claim you." Silence filled the forest. King Pandu dropped his bow. His hands trembled. His heart shattered. One careless moment had destroyed his entire future. Pandu returned to Hastinapura not as a victorious king, but as a broken man. He removed his crown, laid down his royal weapons, and stood before Bhishma. "I can no longer remain king." No one could stop him. No one could remove the curse, leaving behind his palace, his throne, his kingdom. King Pandu chose a life of simplicity in the forest. Kunti and Madri, without hesitation, chose to walk beside him, not because they had to, but because love walks together, even through suffering. As the three disappeared into the forest, the people of Hastinapura stood in silence. Bhishma watched with tears in his eyes. Vidura lowered his head. Queen Satyavati wondered, why does destiny keep testing our family? The palace that had once echoed with celebration now echoed with silence. Yet, hidden within the sorrow, destiny was preparing something extraordinary. For deep inside the forest, King Pandu carried a terrible curse. A curse that made it impossible for him to have children. But then, how would the Kuru dynasty continue? How would the world receive the 5 heroes we know as the Pandavas? The answer lay hidden in a divine secret known only to Queen Kunti. And that secret is the story of our next episode.
Until then, take care, keep learning, and remember, Mahabharata is just not a story from the past. A timeless guide reminding us that every choice we make carries consequences, and every challenge becomes the beginning of a greater destiny. Jai Shri Krishna.